Good evening, everybody. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and now I'm going to continue my review of Danica McKellar's book, Math Doesn't Suck. So, what did Danica McKellar present in this particular presentation? Well, let's get into it, shall we? If you look carefully at the cover of this math book, you will see that the layout of the cover looks like the cover of a supermarket magazine. And I'm going to show you that right now. See that? Doesn't that look like the cover of a supermarket magazine? Now, Danica McKellar brings up this topic at the beginning of this chapter. Okay. During this discussion, Danica McKellar emphasizes the word rate. If I had written the same book, I would have emphasized the word loan. Am I the only person in the world who remembers the simple interest principle? Am I the only one who remembers how to calculate the simple interest principle? Instead, Danica McKellar illustrates her topic with magazine subscriptions, pregnancy rates, like any young lady should be concerned with pregnancy rates, and cardiovascular rates. As we have slowly reached the year 2023, what young lady rushes out to subscribe to a magazine? Not as many as you like to think. So bringing up this topic may become a moot point. And self-esteem as well as education can significantly drop pregnancy rates amongst young ladies. But what about cardiovascular health? That could be a very important topic as we slowly move away from our current pandemic. Of course, I think Danica McKellar should have mentioned Marie Curie. Why? Because Marie Curie did some research on a product called pitch blende. Maybe Danica McKellar could have elaborated on the rate of decay of pitch blende. That would have enlightened many of her future students. But of course, I digress on this particular point. The true definition of the mathematical term rate is a comparison of two different but somehow related quantities. Danica McKellar does mention the different quantities in her book, but I didn't see her mention I didn't see any mention of the word related in her definition of the word rate. Okay. Now, what do I mean by different but related quantities? Okay. Now, obviously, if you have to travel from point A to point B and you had to walk the whole distance, it's going to take you an awful lot of time. But what if you could travel the same distance from point A to point B in a car? Not going to take you nearly as long. So that's where they came up with, when it comes to cars, miles per hour. Okay? So, that's something I will be covering here. Now, what if you want to know the rate of decay of pitch blende? Well, you would compare rate of decay with the pitch blende. Okay. I'm going to continue my review at this point. Danica McKellar does include a statement that emphasizes the importance of including measurements in rate equations. So in other words, what she does, and Euclid very much discourages, if you don't believe me, you can look at my videos from Euclid Book 10. This is all about ratios. What Danica McKellar does is you have then you would stick the number of miles here and the number of hours here. Okay? Now, this looks like a fraction here, but if we were to do this the Euclid way, which is the way he wanted it done, you would have that instead. Okay? Because this is actually proper calculus notation for a ratio, in case you didn't know. Okay? So why include the measurements like I did? Okay? The reason is that these are different units of measurements. You're not measuring the same way when you measure distance as you would be in measuring time. So you have to be very specific. This is about a measurement of distance. This is about a measurement of time. That kind of thing. Alright, let's go into a problem to illustrate all this. Okay. So we're going to suppose that you have 10 ham sandwiches. And you're going to have 20 friends. $10 to $20. Okay? What you'd want to do is you'd want to reduce this to 1 to 2. As long as you have not reached the lowest common factor between two numbers, you can do this. So basically you have one full ham sandwich for every two of your friends. Okay? And the ratio would actually be written by like this. Look familiar? Should, because that's the way Euclid would want it written. Okay. So, what if you wanted to give each one of your friends a sandwich? Well, you just divide the 10 sandwiches in half and give each friend a half a sandwich. That would be nice. Okay. So, the next thing Danica McKellar does is she introduces the concept of a unit rate. She is correct in stating that all unit rate ratios are formed with one side of the ratio being one unit. For instance, you could have a unit rate ratio of the number of steps you take in a race for every minute that passes. Okay, so you would have steps per minute. You can have that. And the same thing is true if you're doing miles per hour, as long as your hour is only 1 hour. Okay? That's why your cars can go up to 55, 60 miles an hour. Okay? The hour doesn't change, it's just the number of miles that you travel changes. In a unit rate ratio, one side of the ratio will also be one of some kind of a unit. So if you're going to write this type of if you're going to write in this type of notation, this is going to stay as 1. This would change. Okay. Now, if you wanted to write it as a fraction, it would be the denominator of a fraction. For elementary mathematics, I guess that'd be perfectly fine. But if you're going to go into Euclidean math, I'd suggest writing it the alternate way. If a doctor is trying to determine your current cardiovascular health, he might measure the number of heartbeats per minute. Okay, the minute would never change, your number of heartbeats would. Have you ever paid attention to a sales tag in a supermarket? At first glance, you will see a can of soup and a price on the shelf for that can of soup. But you may also see a unit price. That unit price is actually a unit ratio. Okay? Danica McKellar also states that one side of a ratio doesn't have to be a whole number. Let's say you have a 10-speed bicycle. You decide to figure out how many miles per hour you're trying to ride. You're able to ride along a long bike trail at your fastest speed. So you use a stopwatch or even your smartphone to determine when to stop riding your bicycle. Then you would attach an odometer to your bicycle. This odometer would keep track of the number of miles you ride. So let's say you were able to travel 3.75 miles for every hour you ride. So your unit rate equation would look like this. Stand by. Again, I would stress that the right side over here would be a single unit, like 1 hour or 1 minute or whatever. That would stay as 1. It could be 1 jelly bean for all I care. But anyway, as long as it stays 1, you're alright. Then Danica McKellar includes a profound statement that was sent to her by one of her fans. This fan states that intelligent young ladies make great friends. That's entirely possible. However, I would add that not all intelligent young ladies qualify for ideal friendships. Some intelligent young ladies are also narcissistic and avaristic. So I would be very careful about trying to find a intelligent friend. Okay? Especially if they're a girlfriend. If you pick the correct intelligent young lady, then they can supply you with very brilliant ideas to solve very tough problems. In modern math books, ratios are presented as fractions. But as you are well aware from watching all of my Euclid videos, Euclid discouraged this practice because he didn't consider ratios as simple fractions. You will find no mention of this fact in any chapter of Danica McKellar's Math Doesn't Suck book. Danica McKellar is correct in stating that any words in a word problem that follow the word per should be regarded as the right side, or as she states, the denominator of a ratio. So if you're seeing a word problem and you actually stumble onto the word per, most likely you're going to have a ratio, and the right side of the ratio should be whatever is described after the word per. Danica McKellar also correctly states that anyone with a southern accent will often pronounce the word pretty as the word purdy. She uses this southern accent as a mnemonic device. I agree with that mnemonic device. I think it's a brilliant idea. Now, I will take a moment and analyze the math problems she presented in her book. The first involves a poorly maintained school bus. I attended a rural school. There were 64 other people that graduated with me. As you can see, each graduating class at my high school was rather small. I can't imagine any of my instructors who would be willing to drive any of my peers or myself to any destination due to a class field trip. If you ever attended a school where the instructors would be willing to drive students to any destination due to a class field trip, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Alright. Now, I wonder how Danica McKellar defines a really cute t-shirt. And you may ask yourself what attire you would pair your t-shirts with. Would you purchase a tire that you would pair your when you buy the t-shirts, would you purchase a tire that you would pair with those t-shirts? And if you did, would you be really saving any money? In the next math problem, Danica McKellar mentions hamburger meat. How lean was the meat? In what recipe was the hamburger meat going to be used? The next math problem involves track practice. What material is the track made out of? How did the young lady in the math problem maintain her electrolyte health? What brand of shoes was this young lady wearing? And what weather conditions was this young lady running in? Now the next one involves a charity car wash. What brand of cars were the young adults washing? How long did it take them to wash the cars? What detergent were they using to wash the cars? That'd make the story more interesting. I'll skip the water bottle math problem. There wasn't enough details in that thing for me to examine and question. The final math problem involves a ribbon and a photo album. What color ribbon did this young lady choose? What was the denier of the ribbon? How many pages are in the photo album? I think we'd like to know that. Danica McKellar ends this chapter of her book by discussing her trip to the country of Bulgaria. Danica McKellar is correct to point out that shopping centers in foreign nations aren't the same as they are here in the United States. That's because people in those lands may or may not like the products that we sell here. Some of these foreign shopping centers sell items that you cannot find in the United States, and some items that are sold in the United States cannot be found in a foreign shopping center. When it comes to items that you store in your bathroom, you usually don't pay attention to how much of each product that you use. That's because you assume you can always purchase more of the product at your convenience store. But there may be reasons to determine how much of each product you use. One very good reason is if you suddenly develop an allergy to one of these products. Then any information about how much product you use could be shared with your physician. But there may be other reasons to consider how much a product you use. What would happen if a company discontinued the product you were used to using? Or what would happen if the price of the product suddenly increased? At this point, I've given anyone who is watching my video a lot of things to think about. I hope you learned something new today. Alright, I will tell you more in a future video, so I'd like for you to stay tuned.